ask about the impact of the hotel guests. Now I know that's a ways off because there's no hotel yet.
Right.
And you continue to speak about it as a boutique hotel and conference center. But the question is about the impact the hotel guests will have on the F train and the tram and, you know, right, yes, that's it.
Right.
This was not covered in, I think,
No.
in the EIS.
It was.
I think it was,
It's
actually,
it's a fair question, and
Yeah.
because the EIS looked at a hotel of 225 rooms.
Sure.
So
It
this
is-
hotel is a
I
little
heard
bit
that.
smaller. This hotel is 195 rooms. It is very difficult to read an EIS, and so,
I know.
you know, I think I'm very sympathetic to people who say, well,
And a
you
lot
know,
of
I know you
boilerplate,
studied
yeah.
it, but what does it really say? And, you know, the phase one, so the hotel was studied in phase one.
Yeah.
The results of the impacts of phase one were, it found that they would not, based on the numbers and the travel patterns and a whole bunch of inputs, that there would not be impact during phase one on the roadways, the tram, or the subway.
I do remember that no impact part.
Right.
Yes, I
So
do.
people may agree or disagree, but that's what the EIS found. It did find that in phase two, there could be impacts, particularly having to do with some of the intersections, which might require signaling, not on Roosevelt Island, but on the Queens side,
Yeah.
and possibly on Roosevelt Island. So you know, we can certainly point to that, or we can pull out the specifics of the hotel, but it really, the EIS
Big
looks at
picture.
it in totality. You know, what we're trying to do is to do our best to encourage everyone to use public transportation, right? Part of the whole
Yes.
goal here has been to keep people off the roadways. I know there's been some conversations and maybe some about the MTA and you know, whether we have the ability to approach them and talk to them.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
we haven't met with them. You know, it's a slow process working with the MTA. But I think it's an important conversation to have with them because they need to understand, and I think this came through in the meeting. They need to understand that the kind of the travel profile of this community will change, right?
Yes.
This is a different kind of development than what was there before.
Yes.
And so it takes time for that message to kind of get through, and I think there's also a question of the experience of, you know, what will the experience be for the riders? And
Yes.
the MTA is very sensitive to that. They will remind you in every meeting you have with them. They have 435 stations, and so 765, I can't remember how many, somewhere in the 400s, a lot of stations that they try to deal with. There are some issues that they are focused on. I think it's even in the capital plan for replacement of elevators, we learned, right?
Mm-hmm.
You learned that, right?
And
escalators. And escalators.
That working.
What's that?
That was not.
But I think it's all part of a bigger conversation, which is the EIS said there's not an impact. I think the reality on the ground is we will be monitoring the impact, working with you, working with the MTA, working with others to kind of see how can we make sure that the findings are correct.
And as most of the representatives know here, you know, we're all kind of partners in this, right? So it's the Islanders, it's the campus, it's everyone basically. And so we are thrilled that Katerina and Seawright's office and Serrano and all the elected brewer helped to compose this letter to MTA, including Kayla's office. 32 elected officials signed on to have the ferry, MTA look at the ferry to connect to the MTA system at some point. Now, right now it's a double fare, it's not connected, and so we just kind of invite you and welcome you for a couple of, you know, initiatives like the ferry connection to the MTA, like more frequent F trains, which might be a whole switcher problem, it's very complicated and hard to understand, like the tram going through construction of platforms and being down for a bit, which is necessary. But we're gonna be hurting for a bit, and we just, you know, really wanted to know if you're, you know, there for us on you know, to support those talks with the MTA and the electeds.
I think in general the answer is yes. You know, we to be very selfish about it.
Of course.
You know, we want our campus to succeed, and nothing succeeds if if people can't get there. If the word on the
Yes.
street is it's impossible to get there, it's not worth it. Don't have your event there. Don't
Yes.
go there for, you know, you'll be stuck. That's not helpful to us, right?
Yeah.
So you know, I think we have to be realistic in terms of the MTA, the big organization, and a lot of other parties. But I think we certainly want to be a voice to convince them of the same things that you want to convince them
Yeah,
of.
it's like a win-win for mutual,
Absolutely.
beneficial, mutually beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and pie in the sky one, and, go ahead, you wanna do pie in the sky?
Oh, pie in the sky. And someone's gonna have to help me out, because I really don't remember this, it sounds great though. We were approached to ask this question
Yeah.
again. In the past, there was discussion of a walkway connecting Roosevelt Island to the 59th Street Bridge. And apparently the idea was rejected by the Department of Transportation. But have you considered the research to see if this could be done, or?
So, this is my personal favorite.
I know you like this one, yeah.
So we did
But
approach, so,
stand up.
well, you may know, there was a building.
Yeah, there
historic-
used to be a
Yeah,
way to
right,
get up.
the elevator
Yeah.
building, and I think it was the receptionist at the Manhattan Borough President's Office. who was-
Yeah, that
who
one.
remembered very well,
That
coming
one
here in the
time.
50s and taking up, no.
Is it used to
Um,
be? Yeah, it's downtown, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the north walkway on the bridge it's a walkway bikeway, right, on the Queensboro Bridge.
Yeah.
So we approached DOT 5 years ago when we first started this project to see whether they would be interested in, because the lane is already there, it's just a matter of building the elevator, to see whether they were dead set against it for a lot of different reasons. That was under the Bloomberg administration, or the last year or two of the Bloomberg administration. We have not approached the de Blasio administration on this. I think our perspective is that they are spending a tremendous amount of money on transportation, but it's it's the East River transportation. They're looking at the what do they call it? EQX, light rail,
Street.
and I think just from a political calculus point of view, we didn't think that this would be the opportune time to talk about investing X number of billions of dollars in this sort of thing. I mean, again, I can't speak for Cornell on this, but personally, I think it's a terrific option for the future of Cornell. I think of Roosevelt Island and Cornell together. I think there might be an opportunity once the campus is up and running to kind of reignite that conversation.
Was there an NYPD facet?
There were a lot of facets.
They didn't know they were gonna close.
There's a historic preservation facet. There's a closing lane, because there is, well, even though we wouldn't be closing on, there was a PD issue with the closeness to the structure of the bridge. There were a lot of different issues that were thrown at us. I think they're all overcomable, but if somebody wanted to do it,
Yeah, the
I
will
think
did
we're a long way
not
off
seem
from-
to be there, and I guess
from
that,
that.
you look at Randall's Island has a walkway from the Upper East Side too, which is different, it's separate, but
Well, that's a
anyway.
bridge. That's
So-
an
so footbridge.
independent
Yeah.
footbridge, yes.
Yeah, but,
That I'm not aware of any conversations that anyone's had about a footbridge.
okay, thank you.
Another pie in the sky is not strictly speaking, it's not a Cornell issue, but it's kind of is. New York State, as everyone knows, promised REAC funding of an agreed upon $23 million by December 31st, 2018. And as we've learned through some meetings, it's entirely possible that the state is not going to honor that agreement. The money was agreed upon in exchange for the loop land on Cornell's projected site, and the agreement was drafted in connection with Cornell Tech. Our question is really, I think we're begging for sympathy here, but we are going to work on this. We are not going to let it go, and if another administration comes in, we're still not going to let it go. So would you partner with us and with Rick and REAC and our elected state officials, because we are going to work with them, to make New York State just keep its agreement?
This really is, we meet with REAC weekly, obviously, and it really is a priority for them. I mean, we know that, they've talked about it a lot, but we really feel this is a payment between, two entities. Really, it's really, two state entities that really need to make an assessment, about what their own processes and what their own needs are. So we just don't really see that we're involved in that one, at all.
We seem to have thought that since it was in exchange for the loop land to allow the Cornell Tech project to move forward, that it was slightly in bad faith to not do as folks thought.
And again, REAC, really is, an advocate for this. We know that they want it. something that they,
And if you
Care
allow
about.
me, Jane, I do want to say that Assemblymember Rebecca Seawright, who's the budget, will be meeting with the governor's office and people who are in charge of Roosevelt Island and being a liaison from governor's office to discuss, some of the major points, regarding Roosevelt Island, and one of the top ones is going to be state funding, so I'm more than happy to keep you updated on that, as well as Cornell Tech, and of course, working with Riyadh.
Yeah, great,
So
thank you.
this is definitely on our radar.
And it's just good for you guys to be aware that we're working, we find that to be very important. Thank you. Community space, you gave us an update that the community space, you could come in, but just to recap, community space there, Cornell is offering one day a week on Thursday for community space in the Bloomberg building in the evening with a 30-day in advance hold, 7 days, they'll turn it around to say yes or no. School takes first priority. Who would be the contact? Oh, there was gonna be a system, is it
There
just gonna be
will.
an electronic system?
Yes, it'll be
Okay.
hopefully an easy way to get through that.
Okay, well, I mean, you have all those challenges and hacks, so I'm sure you can
Yes,
figure
maybe
it out.
we can master this.
Yeah, I think that's not a big deal. Okay, so that was one question. And then also, Matthew, you had a question about the library?
Yeah, I did.
The new library.
The new library.
Right, it occurred to me that the Cornell Technical Library is probably state of the art. But it is entirely possible that on those rare occasions when faculty, staff, students have a nanosecond or two of time, they might want to read Robert Merton. Now, we have a branch library here which has access to the entire branch system with books, ebooks, recordings. You place your order online, you put it hold, it's delivered here, and it might be something that your people would want to avail themselves of. Now, we know that there's an ETA of the new library of sometime in 2018. We've met with the architects, we know what their general plans are, but this is far enough in advance for there still to be opportunities for innovative thought to be included in this process. Now, it has occurred to me that Cornell is good at innovation, and perhaps there would be an opportunity for some synergy here, for ideas, for perhaps some funding, and I was wondering what your thoughts were.
Do they have a plan?
They do.
Did that,
Yeah, the
You
funding
seen
is in
the-
place.
have you seen the design and the?
I have, I've seen that,
They presented on that?
and I believe it's been in the wire.
Oh, yeah, that was a while back, wasn't it?
A while back.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, I remember the one.
But it's coming, and what it will end up looking like is still another question. So there's an opportunity there for input.
Well, I think, again, this is, now we're gonna be a part of the island, right? So, this is exploratory time for, our faculty and our students and our staff, to see, what, the island has to offer, and we really look forward to that. And I look forward to that library finally being completed. I remember when that money was allocated, and
Well, I've performed at the existing library, and the nice thing about that is that I can declare a standing room only audience with 20 people.
oh, you'll have a standing room only audience.